that chakra in a very healthy way. So they correlated different vibrations, different hertz, like the 3926 for the Muladhara chakra, for instance. So in this way, the musical notes are also related to the physical body, and they can, again, vibrating at the right rate creates healing, and when the chakra is off, not vibrating at the right rate, then you get disease again. So it's related to the subtle body and to the gross body. So as I said, music is quite precise in the relationship between notes, and when those notes are arranged in particular ways, we get what is called music. And music is developed in most countries of the world. Most cultures have some sort of music. Scientists have investigated the power of music. What's the attraction of music? So, of course, for human beings, we get, relaxation or inspiration, emotions evoked through music. But they experiment on plants. They found plants also respond to music, different types of music. Okay? So if you have nice classical music or Vedic music, ragas, etc., the plants thrive. They grow very nicely. And if you have heavy rock music, they wilt. They get stunted. The heavy percussive music, they don't like that at all. And even cows, for instance, if they get rock music, they don't produce milk. They get nice, relaxing classical music, they produce very well. So there's something about music, that and the rhythm, etc., that does something to the whole nervous system of the animals, and even plants that don't have nervous systems, they react to the music. How is it possible that a plant can have feelings or whatever, but somehow it senses a different type of music? And of course they did experiments on animals. So in Tokyo University they did heart surgery on mice, and then they had them in recover, and then they had different types of music for the mice and see how fast they would recover. And they found that the Mozart sonatas were very good for healing the mice. Whereas if it was no music at all, or there was a single frequency with no music, it's one tone, they didn't heal properly. So in other words, for mice, the music, the good music, was aided the healing, did something to the body, to the DNA and the cells, etc. They responded in a certain way to music. And not only physically, intellectually, the brains were affected by the music. So you have different types of music, and then they would investigate the intelligence of the mice before and after this music. They go on for several weeks of giving them different types of music. Then they would see if they got more intelligent by going through the maze or something like that. So those that got the Strauss waltzes, they got higher intelligence. Those that got rhythmic drumming, etc., and loud stuff, their brains deteriorated, and they began eating each other up. They became cannibalistic. So that's great power there, and the whole behavior patterns of animals simply by music. And they've done examined the chemicals in the body, and they found that if classical music will reduce cortisol, and cortisol is the main cause of stress, and then stress produces disease. So if you have high cortisol levels for a long time, that's what brings about disease in the body, heart disease or diabetes and so many other things. But this music, relaxing music, like classical music, reduces the cortisol and consequently stress levels, and so therefore you regain health that way. So these are studies done by serious scientists, and they tested it over and over again and found that you can get these results. So very, very interesting effect of music. A simple thing about music goes in your ear, but somehow affects the brain and affects your nervous system, affects your cells in your body even. You can do different things to your body, your glands, etc. And where soft, relaxing music is very good when you have very loud music or brassy music, etc., which they do at sports events and military things like that. That increases the cortisol levels. So that's very good in one sense for cortisol rises when you're in danger. So it increases your fighting spirit, basically. But if you maintain that, it's not good for your body. You have constant levels of high cortisol, then it's causes stress, and then your system deteriorates. So for short periods of time, fine, to get a little excitement. But if you have prolonged series of this heavy music going on and loud music, then it has a negative effect on your whole nervous and biological system. And you can use sound as a weapon. So different governments of the world have developed sound weapons. You aim it at the people, and it will cause them to panic. It can cause them to get sick, it can cause them to get paralyzed or whatever, and fall over or whatever like that. They can't move anymore. Simply by sound, certain sounds. So sound is very, very powerful. In terms of scripture, then if we can just analyze sound into, like everything in the material world, we can analyze it into different groups: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And everything in the world can be classed like this. Okay? So sattvic is maintenance, or restorative, or curative. Maintains very nicely. It's good. Okay? Rajasic is, we can say, creative, but in a very negative way, because it's very passionate. Okay? And tamasic is very destructive. Okay? So for short-term creation, yes, rajas is good. For long-term, no. We prefer sattva. This is good for your health. Rajasic is, creates a temporary increase of activity, but then finally it has negative effects. And tamas is ultimately through and through destructive in its nature. So everything in the world can be classified according to the gunas, like your motive, music, food, health, worship, knowledge, action, values. Everything can be classified into gunas. So music also can do that. And if we have the wrong music, then we get very negative results. So if we have very tamasic music, this will be very destructive to our body and to our minds. But we have rajasic music, it'll make us very excited. And if we have sattvic music, we become very peaceful, and it helps healing. It's natural that these three types of music are there. So therefore, music is very, very powerful influence on living entities, including the human being. So research has shown that sound has form also. You take a note of the scale and play that note, it'll develop a pattern. They have a little machine. This science is called cymatics, and there's a little machine hooked up to the keyboard, and you play a note, and then the plate vibrates at that particular frequency. And on top of the plate there's like sand, and then the sand starts forming patterns. So each note has a distinctive pattern. So not only a sound is something in your ear, it's actually got a form to it as well. So it can be, experiments can be done and get these different patterns for the different notes of the scale. So each note has a particular pattern as well. So there's form to sound. This is of course two-dimensional, but actually probably it's three-dimensional, but we can't pick up that pattern, or at least a two-dimensional way we can pick up. So sound is a little more complex than we think it is. It's not just some vibration going like that. It's also got this peculiar form to it as well, like the flowers or something, or like chakras. It's got its own particular form. And you can do this not only on in sand, you can do it in water as well. You have a little pool of water there, and you get those vibrations, and they form these different patterns also. And if you go off keys, then you get some weird patterns like this. Weird, strange patterns. So, of course, we have mantras, which are sound, and then we also have yantras, which are geometric representations of mantras. So there again we get a form, a two-dimensional form for a mantra in the form of a yantra. And yantras are very common. As we have mantras, so we have for the particular mantra, then we get a yantra. We can draw the yantra. But this is a form in which you can visualize and then meditate using that yantra. So there are many yantras in India. So this again is form. The sound takes a form. And of course, this also represents the universe in one sense, because we can see that it is very symmetrical, and we have a circle and square basically. And there's many variations on the yantra. But very interestingly, all of this geometric shapes actually also correspond to the whole universe and galaxy. So the galaxy also is a very geometric shape, which is mathematically, according to mathematical formula, it's the spiral form of the galaxy. Again, is so we'll see the same spiral comes out in the pine cone or the sunflower seeds or the seashell or whatever like that. Same, actually the same mathematical pattern comes out in the spiral. So the whole universe is kind of organized in some sort of symmetry. And that symmetry, of course, can be coming back to sound again, because we find here the symmetrical forms there as well. So, very, very interesting. And when we take ragas in Indian classical music, ragas are a selection of notes, and then you combine those selection of notes in certain ways, and you get tunes which evoke certain moods. And each raga actually has a form to it. And when they discuss the raga, they'll give you the notes, and then they'll describe the personality of that raga. So it may be blackish in complexion, or white, or golden, maybe a female form or a male form, and whether they're doing certain activities, or maybe sitting down, holding a lotus in their hand, or whatever like that. So each particular raga has a particular description as a person, an actual personality. So in Indian art, they often depict the ragas, all 60 ragas depicted in terms of paintings. Well, this is a Hindola raga. Hindola is a swing. So we have a picture of Krishna and Radha on a swing there. That's the form of that raga, Hindola raga. So in this way, we have form with sound also. But then one of the most important functions of sound is words. Animals make sounds. I know we call them words, but they're quite limited, whereas human beings have more variety of words. Great variety of words, and then we have grammar to connect the words, so we get sentences, and connect the sentences, and we make paragraphs, and we make whole works. So words lead to a lot of information and knowledge. So this is also something very unique for the human being, that sound is used as words, and words produces a lot of knowledge, and so we get all sorts of knowledge coming out of that. In terms of the West, of course, that sound, even the words, is something vibration. It goes through your ear and then to the brain, etc. It's a little different in India. Yes, this ear is here, but actually there's another ear, which is material also, which goes with you when you're dying. And there's another eye also that goes out of your body when you're dying. So in other words, you've got two ears here. This ear plus another ear, made out of subtle substance. And when this ear isn't operating, or this eye isn't operating, you can still use the other one. So that's why if you're unconscious, you maybe have hearing or seeing or whatever, because you're using your other subtle eye. But it's material. So, in other words, hearing is a little more complex. It's not only this ear and this ear, there's another ear there, which is material as well. And of course, in the Vedic system, it's not actually the air that's important, it's ether. Ether is the medium of sound, according to the Vedas. And the sound actually is not any sound, but it's sound that conveys the idea of an object. So in other words, it's a sound with meaning. That is communicated through ether. So, sound, of course, is very important because we have spiritual sound, and all the Vedas are spiritual sound. So not quite this material sound with the airwaves, it's something else, a little bit different. But somehow we can hear it. So it's a dual. It looks like material sound, but actually it's different. It comes from the Supreme Lord, from the breathing of Vishnu. But nevertheless, we can hear it, even though we cannot perceive with material senses. Somehow we can still hear it. So we have many sounds. One of the famous sounds is Om, a primal sound, one single syllable. But this is a representation of Vishnu, Supreme Lord. It's equivalent to the Supreme Lord, and is glorified in all of the Vedic literatures. And Lord Chaitanya, you see in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says that Om indicates Supreme Lord, and it's the primary mantra. And then this mantra expands into Gayatri mantra. And then Gayatri mantra expands into all the Vedas. And so one single sound keeps expanding and expanding, and we get all the Vedic literature as a result. But from one little syllable sound. And it's all spiritual. So very, very powerful sound, spiritual sound, emanating from one sound, expanding. So there's many glorifications of Om in the Vedic literature, like Chandogya Upanishad, etc. And this sound is very important in creation. We know that Mahavishnu lies down and that he glances over Prakriti and he starts all the evolution of universes, and then he sticks the jivas into the universes, etc. Then after some time, everything dissolves and turns back into Prakriti, and then everything, jivas enter into Mahavishnu again. And then again, everything comes out. So in this whole scenario, repetitive scenario of creation and destruction, sound is also used. We see that in the Brahma Samhita, for instance. There, Brahma is puzzled how to create a universe, how to create all the layers of the planets in the universe, how to create the bodies for the living entities. He doesn't know. So he meditates. And then he hears the sound of Krishna's flute. And this becomes the Gayatri mantra, enters into Brahma's ear, and it comes out as the Gayatri mantra from his mouth. In other words, he gets the Vedas in their initial form there. And once he gets that, he gets inspiration, and he begins creation of the universe. So through the sound of the Vedas, he creates the universe. So after he got this inspiration, then the Lord tells him, I bestowed my powers on you. You now possess the necessary powers for creation. O Brahma, now create the bodies for the living entities of the universe. So he gets his inspiration to that sound. Even in modern science, they connect sound with the creation of Big Bang or whatever it is, material creation according to modern scientists. Sound waves that rang out in the early universe sculpted the structure. The best measurement yet of their imprint on galaxies is a boon to dark energy studies. About 30,000 years after the Big Bang, matter collapsed around dense seeds of dark matter. Outward pressure from photons caused the collapsing matter to rebound, creating acoustic waves. That sound, like ripples in the pond, so the whole universe was like a huge sound. Maybe it was Om, we don't know what. Om, and then the whole Big Bang turns into a universe as a result. But this is just modern science. So anyway, we're interested in the spiritual sound more than anything else, and this we call mantra. So mantra literally means, man stands for manas, which means the mind, and tra for triate, deliverance. So mantra means to deliver the mind. Sound which will deliver the mind. They don't transform the mind, do something with the mind. And of course, why we have to deliver the mind? Because according to Vedic literature, the mind is the cause of our bondage and our illusion and ignorance and suffering, etc. So we got to do something with the mind to create opposite effect and make us eternal. So we use sound, mantra, and we use the mind to do that. So though the mantra looks like sound, like ordinary sound with the waves, etc., actually it's not. But it's spiritual. So it comes from the spiritual world and it enters in the material world, and then somehow we can hear it, even though it's spiritual. Normally we cannot hear anything spiritual or see it in Krishna's form spiritual, but the mantra enters into the material world and it becomes perceptible as sound. We can hear it and we can say it. So Bhagavatam and other literatures explain that it goes through a little bit of an evolution. Just like we have the creation of material property, and then property transforms into Mahatattva and Ahankara and all the material elements and forms universes. So the para sound, or that spiritual sound from the spiritual world, goes through some transformations, a little covering, and gradually we can perceive it a little bit in the mind, where we can detect it, and then we can actually think about it, become intellectual, and finally we can verbalize it and say it. That's called Vaikari, when it actually, then we can hear it with the ear. Nevertheless, it began as para, and that para influence remains in that sound in spite of the fact that we can hear it with the material ear or whatever like that. So it's a little bit deceptive. It looks like material sound, but it's not. It's got a material covering. It looks like a material covering, but underneath is that para sound. So that's what makes mantra special. It's not ordinary sound. And this is also related to the chakras. So it starts at the Muladhara chakra and rises up until it comes to the throat chakra, and then you can say it. That's the Vaikari, or the audible sound. So that's something like this. The para sound is the beginning, but it remains. And then we got these different coverings, the mental and intellectual, and then finally the physical aspect of sound, which we can hear. But the para is there underneath that. So we should never think that this is ordinary sound. It's quite special. Very special. So what happens then is we get spiritual sound from the spiritual world, and actually it is attracted to the Atma, which is the spiritual part of us. Then it begins to manifest in the mind and intellect and in the voice. And we pick it up with the ear, and we think about it, what's that sound, and then we think about it, goes back into the mind, and then it starts to influence the Atma. The para aspect gets to the Atma, and we start developing bhakti. And this takes us to the spiritual world. So therefore the mantra is a link to the spiritual world for us. We're stuck in the material world, and we're covered over with material energy, but that mantra gets through our ear, and eventually gets to the soul, produces the bhakti, and it pushes us back to the spiritual world. So this is a very interesting technique the Lord uses to deliver us from the material world. So, mantra has spiritual effect, but actually scientists have also done research on mantras and to see their physical effect on the body. Serious scientists, not fact scientists, serious scientists. And one study was done chanting the Gayatri mantra. And so they had people chant Gayatri mantra, and then they looked at the DNA. And then they found, the DNA changed. It was all tangled up, and it started to straighten out because of within the cells, because of the chanting of Vedic mantras. So, we could say some observable physical effect on the cellular level, or lower than the cellular level of the DNA, just by chanting those Vedic mantras. Also, there's some research into the chromosomes, and one woman scientist, Ms. Black, she got a Nobel Prize. She discovered telomeres. These are little caps on your chromosomes, caps. And these are very crucial for maintaining the health of your chromosomes, and consequently your cells, and consequently the health of your body. So if your telomeres are nice and robust and strong, then your cells are nice, your chromosomes are nice, DNA is nice, and your cells are nice, and your health is good. When these telomeres beginning to they get weak and decline, then that's when your chromosomes start getting weaker, and then cells get weaker, and you get all sorts of diseases. So, in other words, the strength of your telomeres is a measure of your health. So this is a good way to measure effects of different things, like medicine or whatever we have. So, and if we look at the telomeres, and we see they improve. So therefore, this is very good for you. And if they get weaker, then we say it's very bad for you. So, and this is, of course, when the telomeres begin to decline, it also creates disease, old age, etc., aging. So the scientists then thought, well, let's look at different treatments and see how we can strengthen the telomeres. So they tried different things, not just chemicals or whatever. So they tried music. So, saw experiments with music. They did that, soft music for people who had some disease or whatever, and then they looked at their cells and looked at the telomeres to see if they increased. Sure enough, they got some increase there, maybe 5% improvement by soft music, just soft music. Then they tried vegetarian diet. So vegetarian diet was also good, 5% increase, good. Then they tried exercise, so they said people walking, so they do a 10-minute walk every day. It also was very good. Then they tried things like yoga exercises, simple yoga exercises, was also good, maybe 5% on that. They tried sitting together in a group and just socializing and talking. That was also very good, 5% there also. So various things help improve your telomeres. This is like, you could say observable improvement like that. Then I don't know how they did it, but they did kirtan. They tried kirtan. And then they had effect of 42% in the telomeres just by kirtan. They just did 12 minutes a day for 2 months on different people, but had a very, very huge effect of altering their telomeres and improving it. Huh? So that's, of course, just a physical effect of kirtan. Huh? But we can see that kirtan is very good. Of course, we got the mantra there, so that's very good. You got spiritual and very powerful, and it can also affect you physically. But of course, then along with the kirtan, we do have the music there, nice music, and we have group people there also. So we have a combination of things there which help out to give a very, very strong effect. So just on the physical level, even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says the Yuga Dharma should be kirtan, then very good. Very good for everybody because it makes you healthy. Huh? Of course, that's not what we're so much interested in, but it affects physically. But scientists have also understood that, of course, the subtle body, or the, say the mind, etc., also is affected by mantras and whatever like that. So they've done research on that and found how it reduces your stress, reduces your heartbeat, so you don't have high blood pressure, etc. So different studies are doing that. But the thing we're interested in, of course, is the spiritual effect of the mantra. So the mantra is, as we said, sound has form, and even material sound has form. We saw that with the somatic experiments with the machine, etc. And then, of course, the ragas, they have sound also. So the mantras also are non-different from the Supreme Lord. So in other words, the mantra has a form also, a spiritual form. So by chanting the mantra, you realize the form of Krishna. If you chant Krishna's name, if you chant Narasimha's name, you realize Narasimha. So that's the spiritual effect. We can get a realization of the form of God through the mantra, that sound. So very, very powerful. The sound and the object represented, the form of the Lord, are non-different. So we say the name Krishna, then we can realize Krishna, the actual form, the spiritual form of Krishna. Of course, we have a little bit of a different thing. Not only Krishna's, we have Radha's name also. So we realize Radha Krishna. So this is Lord Chaitanya's special contribution. So we're not only doing kirtan and not just Krishna's name, we're doing Radha's and Krishna's names. So we get realization of Radha and Krishna. So, with the final goal of the mantra, which is realization of the Lord, but as far as the jiva or the atma is concerned, the result is finally bliss. We get eternal spiritual bliss. And this bliss arises because of our realization of Supreme Lord and our relationship with Him in love. So the very word Krishna is very interesting because it's analyzed as Krish, which means the source of everything. So in other words, He's the highest cause of everything, most powerful. And Na means the source of all bliss. Okay? And so Krishna is the highest being with all powers, and He also has the highest sweetness to bring about the highest bliss. Okay? So that's all embodied in the word Krishna. So naturally then, we chant the word Krishna, we realize Krishna, we get the highest bliss. However, we have other words in the mantra, Rama. Okay? So mantra means one who gives bliss. or causes the yogis to get bliss, to get enjoyment whenever. Huh? So we chant the name Rama, so means the giver of bliss. So also related with the bliss. And of course we chant the name of Hara, means Hare, Radha. And what is Radha? Radha is the Vladini Shakti of Krishna. She's also the bliss Shakti of Krishna. It's the essence of Krishna's bliss personified in another form. So therefore we have three words to indicate bliss for us: Krishna, Rama, and Hare, Radha. So the whole Hare Krishna mantra therefore is pushing us towards the highest experience of bliss. So the mantra is not different from the object. So through chanting Hare Krishna we realize Radha Krishna and their love and the highest bliss. So even, of course, people may not understand the highest goal. So the mantra is very merciful, and it has physical effects as well. So we saw how the mantra can affect your cells and your DNA and your telomeres, etc., and cause effects. It can affect your chakras as well as that. But ultimately, for us, the real effect we want is the effect on the Atma, the spiritual effect. And the spiritual effect is not just to give Atma realization, but to bring about this relationship with Krishna. And by that we get the highest bliss. So therefore the mantra is very, very powerful. It acts on the physical, the mental, and then also on the spiritual level to produce the highest bliss. But it's also in the simplest possible form, that is, just chanting the name of Krishna. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us, the simplest process to get the highest bliss of all. So therefore sound is important, but when we get to mantra, when we get to the name of Krishna, we get the most potent form of sound of all, sound that can take us up to the spiritual world and give us the highest realization of bliss possible. That is with Krishna in Goloka. Hare Krishna.